Okay, my fellow sisters, I'm so grateful that you're here. So here's the deal with this class. It's not really a class, it's an experiment. Just so you know, I've never taught this before. This is like, seriously, I wasn't going to record it or anything, but Jay was like, well, I want to see what you do. So, but this really is an experiment. So you're just going to have to go with me. I'm sorry if this isn't like world-changing for you or life-changing for you. We're just going to try it. And I'm using you as guinea pigs to learn how to do this because I do think that this is a need.
Yes.
A huge need. And one of my core convictions as a person is that most people want to be holy, but they don't know how. And we need a lot more lessons on how. Tell me how to be the person I know God wants me to be. I want to be it too, but I just can't pull it off. You know what I'm saying? So, God, help me. So maybe what would help you is to hear who I am. You don't have to be me, but just so you know where my teaching is coming from. Yay, come in. If you can find little seats out here, it'd be great. Instead of sitting on the sides, it helps me. But okay, so I was the last of 5 girls. My family was, honestly, I could write two scripts. One, incredibly amazing. My dad, I was raised in the church. My dad was a deacon. My mom was the church hostess. We were always at church. We were always in a good environment. They never cussed. They never even cussed in my presence. They never, I wasn't molested. I'm not making small of that. I'm saying that my past is not tragic, is what I'm trying to say. I did not go through, I was not raped, I was not, anything. I just grew up in Oklahoma as the last of 5 girls, just wild and crazy. And that our family was crazy. At the same time, we were just kind of crazy. And we were fighting all the time. And, the other side of this is that, we read the Bible, but it didn't really inform how we lived at home. It informed a broader view of the world. It was a worldview, a Christian worldview, but it wasn't applicable in our home. And so I didn't really get to see that played out. Now, I would just say, to be fair, I'm sure there was plenty of good things played out, but your mind focuses on the bad. Yeah. Satan has his way, man. And I just sort of landed on, looking back at all, it just felt very hard to me to express myself, to get any resolution. We didn't have a way to apologize in our family. We didn't say we were sorry, so we just waited till enough time went by and then we played together again. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm trying to give you a portrait of the family I grew up in without throwing it under the bus because my family was great. A lot of the problem was me, and I don't blame them for who I am. So, but I do know that the environment that was there, somehow I missed how to resolve conflict, how to speak respectfully, how to give, the benefit of the doubt. We did have a yelling problem in our home, and it wasn't the dad, it's strange. I'm sure that there's things on both sides. You come from a situation where your dad is overpowering, whatever, and then you have that bruise, right, from your childhood. Then you come from another situation where your dad is passive. It's another bruise. Yes. And it's hard, okay? Then you're looking at how your parents interact, and there is a truth to, I don't want to interact that way with my family, with my husband. At the same time, I need to realize, I would always say this, I gotta be at least half of my mom, right? So all those bad things that I was never going to do. You know how you got to say, I will never do that. And then you're exactly the same. Well, I mean, it either way. You know what I mean? It really is true. I mean, we really are.
It's not so real.
So I had that in my mind that I didn't want to be like that. And in many ways, I wasn't. But then I think as I said before, I think I messed up in comparing myself to them. Instead of continually applying the application of comparing myself to Jesus. He's my new standard. The Bible is the standard for my life. Not just being better than the house I grew up in. If that makes sense.
Yes.
So fast forward, I have this Christian, Jay and I got married, we were not Christians. I'm a yeller. I am a yeller. I'm a make it happen. What's the problem? Let's go, people. I mean, without God, it's, I am full on in. Like, we're going somewhere. We're gonna take the castle. And Jay's like, cool. I mean, that's our relationship, in the world. Great, that sounds great, babe. So I married my dad, and so but we became Christians very quickly. We became Christians in 3 years of our marriage. Thank God, it wouldn't have been a marriage. There would be no marriage. So it's a step up already. So we get married, we become Christians, and I'm hearing sermons about submitting, and I'm like, what? What the heck? I've seen that before. And I really hadn't ever seen that before. So it's layers, people. I mean, it's levels. I was like, what does that even mean? How could God say that? That was still back in the day when when you first get to know God, you actually think you know better. But what you don't realize is that whatever you have pictured in your mind that's bad, that's not what God has pictured in his mind. It's just that you haven't been able to release that. There's something blocking you from the original design. The original design is perfect. God doesn't need to change. He doesn't need to repent. We have to figure out, okay, if I have a problem with something that the Bible says, that I need to question it and work it. But always with the thing in mind that, God, I know God is good. So I got to figure out how this is good. And if you wrestle with it long enough, you will find that.
Amen.
Anyways, blah, blah, blah. So it takes a long time to figure out what does that mean, and he's supposed to lead, and I'm supposed to, okay, how does that work, and all that. And in the meantime, we have kids. So they're caught. I mean, I'm just growing up, right? Don't you feel like you're just growing up and then you had a kid? I'm still growing up. I thought I was supposed to know more before I had you. But I had my daughter, my first daughter, and it wasn't until I had her that and I was a Christian. I was a Christian by that time. By the way, but my world exploded, and I realized because you don't have enough emotional bandwidth to be anything. I mean, you have to really learn. You have to grow. You have to go through pain. You have to go through hardship. And I was still anesthetizing everything. Not too much, but of course, a Christian amount of beer. A Christian amount of everything. Christian amount of this, a Christian amount of that. And finally, I realized that Christian amount of thing is not working. And I got to go back and repair some stuff. So I had been I had used a lot of drugs. I had a lot in my history. So I had to go back and sort through that. I'm only telling you this because my daughter was 1 before I did that. We're not going to clean up everything before we have our kids. It's just not going to happen. And so she had to grow up with me growing up. I'm growing up. Emotionally, I stopped using when I was 30, totally. So I'm 15, basically, emotionally, and I have a 1-year-old. Okay, picture your 15-year-old with a 1-year-old. Okay. So I'm just saying that my emotional maturity did not match my age. And trying to deal with all that was kind of crazy. Okay, but I have grown, God has changed me, it's all those great things. But this one, and I already shared, I stopped using, I stopped doing anything that I felt could lead me into idolatry. And I got rid of all that stuff, no vices, so I could really rely on God. But I couldn't get this one root, which is this, you guys don't have to live with me, right? So if you hear me speak, like, oh, that was awesome, right? Well, when you live with me, it's not like, oh, that was awesome. Okay, I just feel awesome every day. And, that's true of all of us to a certain extent, but I'm just saying it was something that I couldn't identify why, because it's what seemed like the effect on my kids and on people around me was so far from what I felt in my heart. I'm like, okay, what am I missing? So anyway, I just wanted to say all that to say I know that your life is complicated just like mine. All of our lives are complicated. And I'm going to take you through this process that helped me, but there's 2 things about being harsh. there is there's the harshness in the moment. There is the way that you speak to your kids because your buttons are pushed and you allow yourself the freedom to speak however you see fit. And you might even justify it by saying something in your mind like, that's it, because you've held on a long time without doing it, right? Okay, so you have already justified in your mind that there is a line, and at that point, it is okay to treat another human without dignity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then sometimes you just don't know how to do it. It's just totally you don't know how to do it, okay? Sometimes it's a choice. Sometimes you kind of don't know how to do it. Okay, so that's all in the moment. And there are, tools that you can employ to help yourself in the moment. We'll talk about those. But there's also deep root work. These two things I think are separate to me.
Yeah.
So you have to stop the bleeding, sort of, right? But you have to actually heal the wound.
Yeah.
Is that a good one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these two things are separate. So this worksheet that I'm going to pass out to you is the deep wound work. I wouldn't recommend filling it out now. I recommend thinking about it. I recommend just sort of taking it. I'm gonna go through my worksheet, what I did, and then you can go. You have to think and you have to pray. You have to go, God, how do you want me to deal with this? Okay? So I'm just going to use myself as an example. So at the top of your page, it'll say from something. It says from ... Okay. This is what I chose to work on when I went to my therapy. I said, I am an intense person. Now I'm saying it's harsh. I chose to say from intensity. And here's the deal. I am an intense person. And I used to feel like I had to apologize for that. And that I was made wrong. Because I felt things so strongly. And nobody knew what to do with that. And it would just hurt people, and then and then I'd be made fun of, or maybe, like your family makes fun of you because you're so whatever. You're so emotional, or you're so intense, or you're so, whatever. But I just was made that way. God made me that way. And I think I have to get to a point where I understand how to use this like a stallion. I always felt like, I think I'm a stallion or something. But they don't know what to do with me. Like, they don't know how to break it correctly. They don't know how to break me. And so I just ran crazy, wild, right? But God knows how.
Amen.
God knows how. So I'm an intense person, and the reason I say that is because it's not just harsh. I feel joy like crazy. And it lends itself to being a musician. No one would want to hear me if I didn't have a wide range of emotion, right? You can't act, you can't play violin, nobody wants, it's a gift and a curse. So I'm trying to be okay with that. So I chose to use the word intensity. And you'll see at the top it says heart shaper, sore spot, little t, little s, and life outcomes. And so we're going to go through one of these. Okay, the idea is that there's certain things that happened in your childhood that shaped your heart. Is that what you see right there?
Yes.
Okay. There's things that shaped your heart. There's little things that happened along the way. There are environments that you were raised in, and they sort of shaped you. And then it creates there's a sore spot that's created from that. From that sore spot, you tend to create a truth that you tell yourself. It's a little t truth. It's not really true, but it's true for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a little truth that you have extrapolated to make sense out of the situation that you were in. And then you come up with a little s. It's a little strategy that you employ to help you with that. And then you get a life outcome. So let's do one for me. So I'm growing up and I'm feeling and what that creates in me is that my thoughts don't really matter. So my little t truth is I'm powerless. So my strategy, yell. Yell to be heard. I'm unheard. Clearly you can't hear me. I'm going to yell. So my life outcome is I hurt others, right? That's where that leads. Let's look at another one. I'm unknown. I felt very unknown. I felt like people didn't know the real thing. I couldn't get someone to know what was really inside. And I always felt misunderstood. My little T truth is I need you to know me. I need it. So, I will increase my intensity, if it's possible to do. I will increase my intensity because the more I feel misunderstood, the more I'm like, but, see the eyes? Okay, so then others feel bullied by me. Now, my intention is I want you to know me. I wanted you to know me. It wasn't about you.
Right.
But they're like, they feel trapped by my voodoo, like I'm trying to get them to know me. My demand upon them, they feel trapped by that. They feel bullied, like they have to know me. Okay, let's look at my next one. I felt untaught growing up, and I don't know what that means to you. I always felt like I was going into situations not knowing how to handle them. And then I would want to get help, but I felt no one knew how to help me. A big moment in my life was going to what we call junior high. I don't know if you grew up with that. 7th, 8th, and 9th for me was junior high. It wasn't like it is here. And it was totally discombobulating to me. I could not get it. I was like, what the heck just happened? There's popular people? Because what happens is you go from your little, elementary school. You have your one room with one teacher that helps you work through all your squabbles on the playground and grades all your, one person that's really, and then you go to the school and they double it in size at least. There's like 1,000 kids there, and then it seems like you showed up late to the party because everybody's already decided who's popular. Well, who decided that? This was very difficult for me to navigate because I felt very secure in my elementary school. So going to this situation was very, very scary. Then I'm looking around my junior high, people are making out, which I thought, oh, that's wrong. People are cussing like crazy. Again, I'm taught that's wrong. I grew up in the church, so that's wrong. People are smoking pot in the bathroom. That's wrong. People are all this stuff, and I didn't. So I kind of felt like that all the time. And so I would try to get help from my parents, but they didn't know what to do. They really didn't. They went to school before the sexual revolution, and they really didn't know what to do. And so I felt unprepared. So I felt untaught. And so the sore spot from that was that I would feel insecure. And then I would feel trapped in a situation. And so I'm going to talk faster, which I can talk really, really, really fast. And then others feel overwhelmed by my many words. Okay? What about neglect? I always felt like I needed more, whether it's true or not. And that left a sore spot of being alone, like I'm on my own. I can actually remember a time in my life where I decided, that's it. They don't know. I've tried. They really don't know what to do. I'm on my own. From this moment on, I'm on my own. I'll make my own decisions. And I kind of just cut off all parental influence, cut off anybody trying to help me to do the right thing, which there were people trying. Then, of course, I'm unprotected. Well, I put myself in that situation, but I am unprotected because I'm out alone. And so I got to defend myself. And that's a really ugly feeling. Like I'm on my own, I have to defend myself. And so other people feel misunderstood. Isn't that interesting? So then finally, I feel like there was chaos that happened in my childhood, and that left me feeling unsafe. When I feel unsafe, I feel I am unsafe. So I will take control, absolutely, and that offends other people. So I had to just objectively look at these things, these little T truths. I'm powerless. I need you to know me. I'm trapped. I'm unprotected. I'm unsafe. I'm unheard. I'm unknown. I'm untaught. I'm neglected. I'm in chaos. And then look at my strategies and see where that was getting me in my life right now. Now, to be quite honest, I really needed just to look at the life outcomes first. Like to go, are these life outcomes things that apply to me? I mean, do people say that? People around you. Do people say that? Do your kids feel this? Do people in your presence feel this? And some of you are saying no, so maybe you're in the wrong class. I mean, seriously, like maybe you think maybe it's just different, is what I'm saying. This doesn't have to apply to you, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so then, what happened next? Oh, on my own. Oh, I'm on my own. That was a heart shaper. That produces fear. I am not going to be okay, right? That thing I told you earlier, girls need to know it's going to be okay. So I'd force outcomes to my liking, and I would damage relationships. That actually ended up being all of that, it's not going to be okay, that was my search for men. That fed my search for men, because what do I need to feel?
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay. And everything was okay as long as I was laying on his shoulder, laying in his arms, then I felt like everything's okay. Now, nothing had changed in my world. Outside my world was exactly the same, but I felt for a moment, it's like anesthetizing yourself. I feel better for a moment in his arms.
Right.
So that led to many, many, many relationships. Okay, so, but now we're going to redeem it. Okay, that's who I am without God. But God redeems these things. And this is what it is to redeem it. From intensity to gentleness. So we have our heart shaper. First, it starts with unheard. But here's what I know for sure. God listens. That is a truth from the Bible. That is not how I felt, but that is a truth. That an anchor for my soul. Because of that, I know I am always heard. Always. I am heard by God. He might say yes, no, later, not right now, whatever, but I am heard. That's a truth. So my big T truth, God sees and hears even when others don't. So my strategy, when I feel unheard by people, I can talk softer. Because I know God hears me. I don't need the other person to hear me. I don't need it. I don't have to hang on to it for dear life. And my life outcome, ironically, is I end up being heard. Let's do another one. The heart shaper is, let's see, where am I? God knows me. Okay, so I felt unknown, like no one knows the real me. Deep down inside, I felt like that. Cam used this diamond that's down underneath all of this stuff. I felt like that. I'm down under a bunch of stuff, and no one can see who I really am.
Yes.
So God knows me, though. God knows. She is with me. I love her. She is with me. There's my people. God knows. I'm in him, and he's in me.
Amen.
This is where I'm meant to be. So I am known, my big T truth, God gets me even when no one else does. No one else has to get me. I can release everybody from the burden of getting me. You don't need to get me. God's got me. The big strategy from that is to breathe. Release people from the need to get me. I'm in the middle of a conversation. I'm in the middle of a meeting. It's clear that no one is understanding the words coming out of my mouth, but it's okay. I don't need them to. It's okay. I'm safe with God. God knows me. God knows me. So I have peace in relationships. Let's do another one. So being untaught. Now I know God teaches me, and that is truth. God teaches me. I have everything I need for life and godliness in the Bible. Absolutely every single thing I need. is in there. He has proven it to me, and if you just test me in this. Now I feel like that's what God said. Just try it. He has not failed to answer my questions for almost, what is it? So I've been married 30 years, so 27 years. I am equipped. I have everything I need for life and godliness. That's the truth. So I can speak slower. I can actually even pause in a conversation. I know it's creepy, right? People do that. So now others understand me more. I started to realize, okay, I'll tell you about it. Okay, so the next one, neglect. God cares for me. God is raising me. I am more likely to be heard operating from trust and security. So I will ask questions. I will show curiosity over certainty. And then others feel heard, right? Chaos, right? Okay, well, God calms. God's always in the eye of the storm. He will not stop the storm, but he will bring you to the eye. I am protected. God defends me. Anybody who was here last year? My defender, remember that? My favorite song. Patience through panic. Here's what's a big problem for me. If I felt panic, I could not slow myself. Period. It was like impossible. So calm conversations were really, really difficult because I couldn't. The panic made it felt like it forced me. Like, when you feel like you can't control yourself, right? So, and people can say, I could even say, it's a lack of self-control. Yeah, I get that conceptually. But when you feel it, you need to feel. I'll tell you a feeling I had. My daughter, I don't know if I should tell her. My daughter was lost one time. That's what it is. You ever lost your kid?
Yeah.
Remember that feeling?
Yes.
Were you like slow in your communication? Excuse me, kind sir. I was hoping you could help me. Okay. You need to feel that feeling that you just had. That feeling can be felt even when your daughter's not lost. In a conversation, you can feel that much panic. Or when hard things are happening to you or your children, especially, you can feel that kind of panic. That causes the conversations to be not so calm. Make sense? But what God taught me is actually I can feel panic and be patient at the same time. Because the outcome of this conversation does not determine who I am. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The outcome of this conversation doesn't take away the fact that God is my protector, he's my defender, he knows me, he teaches me, he cares for me. Okay, I'm on my own. We know that God stays. I am cared for. My big T truth is that God's outcomes can be trusted. He's the big T, that's what I think. My strategy is receptiveness and surrender. And then that breeds security. All right, so I went through that just so you could see kind of how that works. Now, let me tell you, I had to spend quite a bit of time just to get to what are my core, what are the heart shapers? Like, what are those things that inform my feeling, my thought, my life, right? And so just the work on the sheet, like, I went to this amazing place for a week and I worked on it there, but I continued to work on this. I would get up every day and I would read over my big T truths every day. I would read my chart again. Where do I get stuck? Oh yeah, when you feel unheard and unknown and uncared for. Okay, careful. Remember when you feel those things, remember what happens? Okay, remember this. God is this, God is this, God is this, God is this. I would read it every single day. I would go back over it through my quiet time every single day. I want to say 3 months I did that. Every single time I went into a conversation, I had to do that. And I will just tell you, I was in some very, very difficult conversations. It was hard work. It was very difficult. And sometimes it was legit, straight up not safe. Some of those conversations were not safe. But that didn't mean that God didn't want me to have them. And I think this is a misconception. I want to strive to be a safe person for everybody. But safety is perceived.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I got to respect when someone doesn't feel safe. That's true. And they need to respect when I don't feel safe. That doesn't always necessarily mean we can't have a conversation, because sometimes God calls us into conversations where we don't feel safe, just so he can teach us to be a new person. If I hadn't had those conversations, I wouldn't know that I'm a new person. Does that make sense? So having very, 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 very difficult conversations, I see as God's training me. He's knowing what is in my heart. He's training me. He's going with me into the battle. He's there. He's going to fight that battle for me. And I am telling you, this will describe my life. Psalm 57, I will hide beneath the shadow of your wings until the danger passes by. I cry out to God Most High, to God who will fulfill his purpose for me. And I have found that even when I am the most, I have found like to be almost, okay, I'm not like a saint or anything, but almost grateful for those unsafe situations now. Because I've been able to go, the bigger the weirdness, the bigger the lack of safety, the bigger the miracle if I don't go back to my old things. Does that make sense? It's like God gets to experience, it's like he's going, yeah, see? I picture God doing that. I told you. Just stay right here until the danger passes by. I got you. It's going to be okay. If I can hide beneath the shadow of his wings. Okay. I'm sharing with you my stronghold. And I really view this as, when a tree, when you take a tree down, you cut it back, right? And I feel like as a disciple, as long as I've been following God and trying to live for him, he has cut my like the sinful nature tree, the sinful nature that grows. He's cut that back a little bit at a time. But this is the stump. And when you get a stump removed, you have to it's an extra process. It's like $1,000 extra. Get that stupid thing removed. Isn't that crazy? Okay, so this is my stump. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is the stump. This is the pride at the bottom. It presents itself differently for everybody. But for me, this is my stronghold. I realize it's not the same for you. I feel like this could be used for any stronghold. And so you could, with a little help, maybe with a little guidance, you could go through this worksheet on your own and sort of map that out for you. When I was with Charity was the psychologist that was taking me through this. They didn't have a chart like this, it was just, we were just talking, and she would take out her, what's that thing, the flip chart, and she would write it with Sharpie. Sounds like you felt this and you felt this. So she showed me how to do it. But when I got home, I was like, I want to print this out. I want to be able to see it. It helps me to be able to see it so that I can work on it. And I guess the whole point for me is that if you're struggling with being harsh, if you're struggling with the way that you communicate to your kids at home, it's not just being a mom. Does that make sense? It's not. It's more than that. And I think that the stakes are just really high.
Yes.
And you're not going to want to pay that price at the end. I think you're going to want to deal with this now and create a relationship with your kids that is open communication. Now, the thing that is different about about being the mom is that kids push every button, unlike anyone else. I don't care. Husband, father, mother, I don't care who they are. It's the kids that will push they know every button to push. And so you get more time to practice, I guess is what I'm saying. But amen. I guess I just think you can't wait for it to grow on its own. You have to be intentional. And that's what's had to switch in my brain is I just kept waiting for these fruits of the Spirit to grow. Why don't I see more of these fruits of the Spirit on my tree? I am doing everything I can. But I had to intentionally choose it. So I will tell myself when I'm going in to a talk with one of the kids, I have to say, choose humility. I'm telling myself, choose it. Don't wait to feel it because you won't feel it. Choose humility. Sometimes we can say, grant us humility to God. God, grant me humility. I've prayed that many times. Okay, so I understand. But I think that the idea is that he would go like, phew.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like the picture is, yes, the pixie. Oh, can I have my humility dust? I'm lined up. I'd like to have it. But it doesn't work that way. So, but you choose it. You actively choose the opposite. So I know that I'm harsh. I know I say things in a mean way. I know that I lose my temper. I know that I blow. Like a teapot. So, now, those things just happen. But I can choose to do the right thing. That's within my grasp.
Yeah.
But I have to really slow down and go, this is the only thing I care about right now. I only care about becoming humble and gentle. Those are the two things I care about. Like, do you see what I'm saying? It takes that much energy and effort for a while at least before it becomes you as a general rule. I've had a prayer. Okay, so we did this thing, this is the last thing I'm going to say, but in our church, in the Turning Point, 10 years ago, we did this thing like a destiny statement for 2020. Okay, so some of you are nodding. And you were supposed to put down all these different things that were there. And I put down, one of the things I wanted was to be gentle and kind as a rule. I wrote that in 2010. So it's now 2020. And what I've realized is it's only happened since I actively and intentionally pursued it. It didn't happen along the way like I thought it was going to. I thought it would just over time. But I needed something more intentional. So, anyway, I think that's really all I have. So I don't know what to do. Are there questions? I don't know what questions. Okay, yeah, a question. I don't know if I can answer them, just so you know.
So my question is more relating to guilt. Like, how do you handle guilt from when you vomit?
Other people probably have a better answer. I apologize, and I practice that godly forgiveness. I say, when we go to God, and we say, I'm so sorry, I was wrong, will you please forgive me? Okay, so I say that very easily now because it's the script for me, which is good.
Yeah.
It's good for me. So I go back, I apologize to them. I was wrong, will you please forgive me? Of course, kids always do because they're completely pure-hearted and awesome. When we're totally not, but they are. And so then we go, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I just love your forgiveness. And I just remember that if God can forgive me, who am I not to forgive myself?
Amen.
He's the standard for forgiveness, not me. I guess that's where I go with that. I did forget to talk about things that you can do in the moment to stop yourself. Right? Okay, so this is the hard work, the hard, gotta get some time with God work. Okay. But in the moment, I have done a lot of, I don't know if I'm right about all this, okay? So this is my disclaimer. These are just opinions and ideas. This is not truth. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Please don't walk out and say, well, Tracy Minor does this. Maybe sometimes I do this. These are my ideas. It's not about me, okay? So you can glean what you want and leave the rest. Okay, so I went through this time where I was like, I'm not going to correct anything. Okay, I know we can't do that forever. Okay, I know that. So I just went, I'm not correcting anything. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. And I literally didn't. And now it was kind of like fasting. So you just go down to no food. Food is not an issue anymore, right? Because you're just like, I'm fasting. So you're not having to decide what food to eat, what food not to eat, when to eat, your stomach ground, whatever. You're just like, I'm fasting. Well, that's what it was like for me. I was watching all this stuff kind of go by that I would normally correct.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I don't correct anymore. Sometimes I would forget. I'd be, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't correct anymore. I just wanted to see what it was like, So I stopped correcting anything and everything because I was bad in my correction. Does that make sense? This may not apply to you. That's why I'm careful about my ideas. I just I'm not correcting. And I just decided to make everything, I just said, okay, it's like a day of encouragement. The only thing that'll come out of my mouth is to encourage them. Period. I will only encourage. And it's good, because you had plenty of days where all you did was correct them.
Yeah.
They deserve a couple of those. A couple of encouragement days thrown in there, right? So I just said, all I'm going to do is encourage. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to encourage. And it was hard. It was hard. But they're all alive. And they're actually so much better. They're so much better. Now, I have corrected. I went back, but it was like a fast. Then you say, maybe you can just declare a day. It's encouragement day.
Can you give us an example of?
So I'm trying to get the kids up. Okay, I don't know why this one keeps coming up. Okay, sorry.
We can all relate.
Trying to get the kids up. No one's giving me a good idea anyway. So trying to get the kids up, and it's horrible, and they're not right. And so I come in and I go, it's time to get up. Blah, 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 and they don't get up. And then I come in and I say, you know what? It's really time to get up, and you haven't really obeyed me, and I don't know if you're waiting for me to tell you more times, but I'm not going to. I love you. And then I would walk out, and I'm telling you, they would get up. It was the weirdest thing. When I told them, I see that, I did ask you to turn that off. You didn't turn it off. And I asked you, I don't know what you were wanting. Were you wanting me to ask you again? I don't want to, because then I might be mean. And I don't want to be mean. I'm trying not to be mean. I'm serious. This is not me. This is what I would do. I don't want to be mean. I don't like. You're too important to me. You are too important to me. Our relationship is too important. It's more important than the game. It's more important than It's more important than anything. And I just don't want to be mean. I feel like this is coming between us. And I don't like it. What's so funny is that I actually, as I'm just saying this, I'm like, actually, I do this a lot now. I didn't realize, because it's really flowing off my tongue. And you guys are laughing, which I'm not mad about, but because I realized that's how it felt to me back then. But now it actually feels almost natural. Now, we have consequences. And we can calmly say with consequences, we do have this thing of so this is our thing right now with getting up. I come and I tell you when to get up. I'm sweet and kind, and I realize that you're grumpy, it's okay. But that's my thought. I'm not saying I say it, that I'm thinking that. And then I say, so I'll go in and I'll get him up and I'll go in, just a reminder that your phone and your Alexa are dependent upon how you get up this morning.
Oh,
But I love you. I love you. That's more important. But so there is a consequence. Like Jake doesn't get his phone unless he gets up. You know, that Brooklyn doesn't get her Alexa, that's her thing, it's her Alexa, unless she does, you know. So I'm not saying we don't have any consequences, but I used to be consequence first. As if that was the point. The consequence, so you don't want to suffer that consequence. And that was my spirit. But now my spirit is love and respect and a consequence, by the way, because there's nothing we can really do, because we are like kind of charged to turn you into decent, functioning human beings. That is our role. So I don't know how else to do that except to help you when you know, put up some boundaries and put up some things to help you to develop integrity. But I love you. So that's kind of what I mean. So I did those things. I also have this man. There's going to be times where you're just like ticked, right? You're ticked off, and those are the times where you cannot talk. You can't. And Jay and I look at each other because he gets it too. I mean, to me, there's times. You know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't know what to say. You know what? This is very important, and I want to talk about it well, and I can't do that right now. I have no desire to disrespect you, and I don't want to do that. So I need to wait a second before we talk, so I'm going to go pray or something. So I just give them the heads up that, like, I value our relationship too much to ruin it. I'm feeling frustrated. I definitely tell them, I'll use that. I'm feeling frustrated. But I don't want to sin while I'm frustrated. I say these things out loud.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt you, and I'm trying to be better at the way I communicate. And I respect you and I love you, and I'll be back. So then that usually gives me time to calm down, and then I can deal with something. But I mean, because you know, kids do stupid things. I mean, it's a Bible word, stupid. They're given to follow, right? And that's supposed to be normal, but our problem is that we're surprised by that. We're so surprised when they're not mature human beings. I don't know, I'm the worst, so I don't know, those are some things that I do. I stop myself, I don't allow myself to talk if I'm furious, if I'm angry. And when I say furious, like, I can feel it like that. So I'm feeling the people in this room are people that know what it feels to be furious. Okay, right? So other people say they're angry, you know, all of your phlegmatic friends or whatever, and they say they're angry or whatever, and you're like, well, you ain't seen anger. How does that feel inside? Because I don't know, you don't look very angry. So furious feeling, it's got to dissipate. No talking. And I let a lot go. Okay, that's the other thing that's changed. I let a lot go. When I said that the house is not as clean, it's not as clean. And we are happier. My house, my people are happier. We spend a lot of time on the couch. We spend a lot of time on the couch with the stupid TV, which I hate. And that's really how I feel. So I'm not a TV fan. Like I don't know, I want to play music and read books. So, but that's not their favorite thing. But I'm sitting around the TV because there's peace in my home. And that's more important than my opinion about that TV. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I go, we're sitting around, and he's on his phone, and he's on his phone, and there's TV going, and she's over there, but we're all peacefully existing, I feel, is a gift. Amen. It's amazing how God will repair things. I just want to end with this really sweet story. So, my mom, my poor mom, bless her heart, she was never able, she had this in her. She had the same thing I have, but she was never able to overcome it. And so, all the way to the very end, she still had this in her, and it repelled, it repelled people. And, God has given me a chance to be different. And I feel so grateful, so lucky to have this chance to change. I could look and go, I'm already 50. You know, a whole
Yeah.
life, and I ruined it. Ruined my kids, ruined my life. Or I could go, I'm only 50. My mom never got this chance. So my mom had a love for many things that I have now, but she had a love for puzzles. And I started working puzzles this fall. And I set this table up, and you know what's really funny? And nobody else in the family was really into it. It was just me. I would like work puzzles, put them out during the holidays, and I would start working them. But my oldest daughter, JL, who doesn't live with us anymore, she lives, she lives with someone else. She's on her own. But she started coming around, and when you have adult children, you do a little bit long for them to come more. You long for the relationship, you long for it, and you really need to let them go. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're trying to figure out that balance, like, but you secretly, you're like, did she text? Okay. But she started coming over, and she totally got into the puzzle. So we sit there and we talk while we do puzzles. And this very strained relationship I had with my mom, she actually left me a legacy of this puzzle that's now healing my relationship with my daughter. It's a beautiful thing, and it's not lost on me. Don't let things be lost on you. Decide to notice little things, because you're only going to get little ones. You're going to have many times where you're like, I will never change. This is never going to change. I just did it again. I suck. I know we're not supposed to use that word. But that's how you feel. I'm never changing. You're going to have many of those times. So you must notice the little things. And you're going to have to ask God, just one more soul. Give me one sign. One sign that I'm changing. And He will provide those for you. That's it.